Hi dear friends and friendly subscribers, welcome back to my channel. This is Inner Hill Tarot. My hands is a little bit bruised, not bruised up, but there's a lot of suits coming out from my Palo Santo. Apologies. There's a look like really dark color here. But anyway, yeah. So today I'm going to do like my July 2023 decks review. I know that in my channel you probably see a lot of decks being featured, silent flip through the whole deck, and then my hot takes or my personal take of it all. But what is actually I'm using for my day-to-day practice a lot of times is completely different, or a lot of times it's some things that I did unbox during that period, during, for example, like this month during July. So therefore there will be like a little bit of review what I feel about working with them. But a lot of decks also, actually, sometimes I unbox them and I see their artwork. Sometimes I feel really drawn into them, but at the same time I don't feel sometimes it's an appropriate time to work with that deck, so I kind of park it for a little bit until the right moment for me to work with it arrives. Sometimes I just don't gel with them, so I would like donate them or trade them with other decks as well. So yeah, so it's always fascinating, I think, with the tarot and oracle work. You think that you like something, but then when you get it, it's totally unresonated at all. Yeah, it's always very fascinating. But anyway, this is the decks that I've been using for July 2023, and I would like to change, not change, but put the categories of the three decks in three different categories. One is all Loscaribeo decks that I've been using this month, and I would like to say kudos to the publisher, because I think Loscaribeos has been curating very beautiful artists to featuring beautiful artist works, and I think their people has been working very hard to achieve that, because it's not easy to find genuine artists that's still using their own, their own maybe sketches and stuff like that, and to make a very cohesive deck, tarot decks basically. So most of from Loscaribeo, I'm just going to touch up on their tarot decks, and second of all, I would like to touch up on my study with the moon and astrology with all of my lunar decks, including this beautiful everglow divination system by Trisha Sufeld. I think her work is quite stunning, and also her divination system could work beautifully, because she's also include the spread that I feel it works quite well, and I will show you a little bit later on. But yeah, with my other lunar decks, I feel very called to more in-depth learning with the connotation of the moon, and just all the astrology in general this month of July, maybe because it's Cancer season. That's I know moon is like ruled by Pisces, but at the same time we're in the year of chariot year, which is ruled by Cancer, and Cancer is also is about family life. So I feel that learning the notion of the moon is really family family life as well. It's not like in a Piscean feeling, which is like all is one kind of feel, but it's more like understanding the moon phase into the physical body, into the karmic rhythm, the karmic patterns, what is happening. And I think summertime, July, is really nice because it's all about the water movement, the emotion movements. It's very heart opening time, so that's why I'm choosing it, to getting to know more about how moon phases correlated with my physical being, basically. And the last one is the indie decks, both indie decks from just like indie decks that I have already, or the Kickstarter tarot that just arrived recently. And you know, it's, yeah, there's quite stunning decks that's just arriving. And yeah, I can't help but working with them because they're just really stunning, of course. And I feel like truly blessed that I could work with them energetically. Okay, so let's start with the Loscarabeo decks first. So with the Loscarabeo decks, I feel that I don't use this that much, actually, this order deck, because it's more like times when I feel quite confused, and I felt that some of my childhood issues being triggered again. And so yeah, I don't use it that much, actually, this deck, as at the moment, because summertime is always like a very beautiful time for me to relax, so I'm not really disturbed on this childhood trauma journey. It's more like a winter time kind of feeling. But I just want to feature here because it works quite well for me, because the characters and the way of the drawing is just quite simple, and it's kind of highlighting the innocence of childhood mind sometimes, and even my childhood dreams sometimes, when I'm dreaming in a sometimes I'm dreaming in a black and white when there's like a childhood trauma pattern comes up. So I feel that this deck is helping me a lot to solve some issues that kept popping up from that period. But at this moment, I just park it as well. I just taking it out as one of the deck that's beautifully, stunningly curated by the Loscarabeo team, the deck from Diego Gabriel. And then like the next one is the one that I just acquired, actually, the Tarot of the Enchanted Garden. And oh my god, I think this deck is really nice as well, because I don't know how they curated the artists, this team, Loscarabeo, because look at the artwork here. It's all still like handmade together. Also with this deck from Diego Gabriel, they all still handmade as well. So it's all like paper sketched, and it's give like a really nice summer vibe. And I highly recommend to use this deck outdoor, because I don't know what, I mean, right now I'm filming indoor because I have so many decks to feature. But when I did a reading outdoor, it's just kind of, it's kind of blending with the flowers, I feel. And the information that comes out, it's just, I don't know, it's just like some kind of like, if like what I did when I'm unboxing this deck, I was sitting next to lavender, and I'm feeling this kind of like dreamy energy or something like this. and yeah, it's just like kind of collaborating with the flowers around it when it's working to give me the messages, something like that. Something about the working with this deck in the flower garden is kind of stimulate my mind. I can't say you because I don't know if it's probably working different from you, but it's just like it's stimulated my mind in a different way. And I think also like the smell of the flowers around, it's kind of giving me a different insights for the reading with this deck. If you want to look at the sample of what I did with this deck, you can check out in my Instagram, actually, at innerheal.tarot. I have like sample reading there outdoor in the garden. So yeah, it's just, and the pattern is just like very clear to me. What I need to do, what kind of like blockage towards some certain goal, and the answer is quite to the point as well. So I highly recommend this deck, and also because the artwork is I think it's quite genuine as well. It feels like a shadowscape energy to me by Stephanie Puimunlao as well. But I think with Stephanie Puimunlao, it's more like a dreamy shadowscape, you know. It's like a dream, like you're in a dreamscape. In this one, it's more like you're in a fairy or in a fae realm, and it's kind of like flower, literal flower spirit realm kind of feeling. So it's highly recommended if you going outdoor, or you know, for like a retreat, weekend retreat or something, I think. And in the summer, of course, not in the winter, I highly recommend to bring this deck actually for inner reflection, the Enchanted Garden. And I can say the same also with the Tarot of the Fairyfolk. Although I feel that the Tarot of the Fairyfolk is a little bit naughty to me. It has this bravado and a little bit of a male energy. I don't know. If this one is, I just gonna take it out for so that we can have a comparison quite easily. If this deck is quite feminine and very gentle, the Tarot of the Fairyfolk, I feel it's quite have a punch, and it's very male centric kind of energy, but at the same time it's very playful as well. And I feel it's like when I work with this deck, it's kind of like talk about a little bit in innuendos, you know. So yeah, you know what I mean. It's kind of like naughty boy, male adolescence energy a little bit to me. I don't know, maybe because I do the unboxing also in the wild, you know, in the heath extension. So, and it's a lot of insect there, and so I think I'm kind of consecrated it with like quite a wild energy within it. So that's why like the voice or the energy that connect with me is like yeah, this kind of like bravado young adult male energy kind of thing. This kind of energy, this guy, yeah. Whenever I see all of the cards, it has this kind of energy, you know. So it's like kind of mischief, it's kind of cute, it's kind of naughty energy. So it's quite charming actually. I really like this and this deck. I'm glad I have it, you know, because I don't know, a lot of like online retailers right now, it's kind of like sold out at the moment. I think reprinted already, but yeah, I'm just glad I have it. It's kind of playful. It's really summer friendly, and I think if you want to have like a contrast energy, you can bring both of this. Look, it's even, I feel it's matching quite well, you know. But it's just me, I don't know. Yeah, naughty but nice kind of thing, the tarot of the fairy folk. And it's to me it's also very playful and very humorous, this deck. I really love it. Okay, so the next one is the Yoga Tarot, which is, I got this one after a very long time waiting for the out of print price at that time, and in the end I got it through trade, actually, with other deck. So I'm really happy to get it. But then Loscaribeos is already reprinted the new one, this Yoga Tarot, and I don't know, I think I would actually sell the old deck, the one that's out of print, this one, and I will have this one instead, because look at the pictures. It's just very stunning as well without the border, first of all, and also because it's changing the orientation of the deck. In the old deck it's more like a toss, I think, even though the picture is the same, because yeah, the number of 8 is the justice, and 11 is the strength. And I know it takes more than that to call a deck is a toss deck, and Wade Smith is a Wade Smith deck, but it's just like the numbering, it's kind of giving me this kind of ideas that if number 8 is justice, it's goes towards Thoth deck kind of thing. And in the new one they changed that, so number 8 is strength in this deck, so it's more aligned to Raider White Smith, I think. And also it's just like the quality of paper and borderless, because with the border is a little bit it's just the images become smaller, right, with the border. And also the naming with so many different European language is, I don't know, it's just a little bit odd. I feel yeah, I mean, the thing is, because also I feel if you have this Yoga Tarot, it's not a beginner's deck, so you kind of have to understand already the archetypes through the Rider Waite Smith. And so therefore, to have so many different languages, it's just kind of it's quite distracting than just to have one, you know, the Knight of Wands kind of thing. I know it's kind of like, oh, it's like, why do you put it in English then not in Italian? Well, maybe because their target, Loscaribeos target market is mostly English speaking people. I don't know. But also from this kind of like different way to print the decks is also showing me how the company or the publisher change the way, the idea of how a deck should look like. And I think the new Yoga Tarot is very charming in its own right, and I just love the look without a border, actually. So I mean, also that's why also I don't understand the tarot of Fairyfolk, why they still put border in it, you know, and like the old style of the deck, because I think this would be much better if it's on this kind of cardstock, for example. But I don't know, I don't make this kind of decision. I love the artwork anyway from all of the artists that featured in Loscaribeos deck. They're all different enough, I feel, from all the artists, but at the same time they're kind of like have a red thread, I think, to be featured in a Loscaribeo deck, you know. And the last one, of course, the Elisa Setzinger Symbolic Soul Tarot. I've been using it as well because to me it feels like what life would look like in moon, you know. So it feels like a very out there in a way, and it's at the same time it feels yeah, it feels very alien and stuff like that. It's just again, it's give you a different kind of point of view, right? If this is like for the inner child work, for example, and this too is more for like, this for humorous, this is more for like beauty kind of reading, relationship reading, and this one is more like for the body, and so this one is for the mind kind of thing. So you can have like a Lost Caribbean day or week just with these decks, and it will all work because it felt still cohesive or something like that. And I would add this tarot decks with rock pools, some rock pools, what do you call it, oracle. What I use the rock pool oracle is the shadow and light. Oh my god, this one is like really useful, this deck, because in all the cards it's giving you the idea. So sometimes in a spread, I, for example, suddenly Six of Pentacle arrive and I don't understand the connection. I would ask the oracle, the shadow and light, is like, why is it here, and what is the light and shadow energy of this being here, this card. And it's so far it's really useful to help understand the kind of two different energy that sometimes push and pulling within a reading. So yeah, this month I use this deck a lot to clarify. It's a beautiful deck with all my Loscaribeo reading. So yeah, and most of my readings are really in that that Instagram. I use that account as my kind of like self-reflecting journey with tarot, and also a way for me to get to know a new deck and work with it closely kind of thing. So yeah, if you want to check it out and add me there, follow me there, that would be nice. Yeah, if you just want to know, you know, how does it work kind of thing. So kudos to Loscaribeo this month for churning so many beautiful decks, and a beautiful timing as well, for especially for the fairy decks, you know, the Enchanted Garden and Tarot of the Fairyfolk. It just came out now, and I think a lot of people love it already. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It works beautifully for me as well. But they should let go the tuck box because it doesn't work anymore. Look at this. This is really not nice. I'm just trying to put it in and it's difficult. Okay, so moving on. The second category that we have today is the work with the astrological and moon decks. So I have several of the astrological deck that I'm working with this month. So, and also the Moon Magic book and card deck. Okay, so let me talk about this one first, the Moon Magic and book and card deck from Actors Publishing. So upon opening the deck, I'm actually quite like, okay, what the hell is this? You know, I have a low expectation actually about this deck, because also like the packaging is quite old style, and the cardstock actually really not really good. I feel it's very flimsy, you know, and I thought, oh, this is like almost photographic kind of deck kind of feel. I don't know how I feel about this. But then I started to work with it with the pentacle spread. Actually, I admit I don't work with it every day. And I start to read the guidebook. The guidebook is actually very, very, very useful for me, because also it doesn't just say about what is waxing crescent moon, basically, right? Like a lot of deck is happening like that. For example, like the Monology manifestation oracle cards, I feel it's just talking about the aspect of the moon, but this deck is doing much more than that actually. So it's kind of like giving us the aspects of the moon in itself, and my favorite is, for example, the aspect moon hair, or I think the one that I like is the extra explanation about nightmares. You know what is nightmare means, actually, right? And for some reason, when I start working with this deck, this nightmare card coming out a lot actually. So I have to read again and read again, and then I understand why, because I gave a tarot workshop this month in Germany, and one of the participants is actually embodying this nightmare energy within him that's dormant within him. So I kind of feel that the reason I have to read this again and again is because it's this energy preparing me to understand when the Nine of Swords card that he chose, that person, is not about nightmare and anxiety, but it's more like this. The meaning of this, the nightmare, mare is the female horse, meaning of the female horse. So it's like the horse or the soul that's illuminated in the night, you know. So it, and the reading with the tarot is like so accurate, so I always feel like, oh my god, this deck is it's actually giving a lot of information that I don't know about the moon phases actually. And the pentacle spread of this deck is quite useful to me. This pentacle spreads like where you are, what is in the shadow, what is helping you, your immediate course of action, your outcome. This one is quite useful. So yeah, I think for people who's looking to work with the moon phase, then the moon energy, I'm really recommend this deck actually. And just overlook the fact that the card is quite flimsy, but actually the images themselves is useful. It's quite useful for if you want to know more. It's a, yeah, it's quite powerful deck actually. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And yeah, with that one, I actually work with this deck as well in tandem with the Moon Magic deck, the Lunar Oracle by Liberty Fi. But I feel it's quite limited, this deck actually. It's not as profound as the other deck, the Moon Magic, because also like it's a different system again. it's kind of like put the whole deck into three kind of section: the new moon, full moon, and wild card. So basically, if you're using as like everyday pick a card, you use the three section together. But if you work like in new moon, you choose one new moon card and wild card as a separate parts, and if it's full moon, it's full moon and wild card. And I feel that it's quite stifling as a deck actually. So I felt that it's not really a deck that I really like to work with actually. The good thing about this deck is that it's also, the guidebook is quite nice, and it's giving a little bit of information like the lunar deities, something like that. But above all, I feel that I'm a bitch now, but I'm gonna say it. Above all, I think the guidebook, it's more like a pretty pages in a way, and some of the information, even though it's not the same and probably incorrect, but you can also look for online kind of thing. Yeah, it's a shame because it's a beautiful deck, but I feel it's less useful even compared to the moon magic. I'm sorry, deck, I don't mean to hurt you. But this deck is really pretty, so I think if you just want to have a deck to easily work with it, and you know, you're not really looking more deep, or you're just starting, this deck is also can help you a lot actually, because it has like the ritual for the full moon, for the new moon. So it's not without function. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you have like so many decks dedicated to learn about the moon, then probably you can overlook this one, and I think it's better if you buy this one instead. Okay, so the next one is the Arcana of Astrology by Claire Goodchild. I love her artwork, and I also love her other decks, the one with the skull. Now all of a sudden I don't know about the name of that deck. What is the name of that deck? The Antique Anatomy Tarot. And she also have now Book of Seance, which is I'm also very interested in knowing, and also how to work with your ancestor energy as well. Yeah, her work is really beautiful, Clara Goodchild, but also I feel it a little bit morbid. Although I really love her Antique Anatomy book. I mean, an Antique Anatomy deck, you know, and also the Book of Sciences. But at this point, it's just not calling to me to work with it, so I haven't got them. But I got this one, the Arcana of Astrology, because I'm also very interested in learning in depth, and I want to try to look if it's any different from any divination system book in mass market right now. And what I found is like this deck is also almost the same feeling that I get like the Lunar Oracle. Like you have to kind of put all of the different aspect of the deck into different spaces. Yeah, something like this. So there, I think there's like 4 different faces is like the zodiac, and then the houses in astrology, and then the planets, including different phases of the moon, and then in the end is the asteroids. So of course the asteroids is kind of including Lilith, and it's kind of the bonus in this deck, because most of decks doesn't include them, but of course, again, like I said, in this deck it's kind of limiting when you only have a little bit of aspects that you can shuffle to make like a comprehensive reading. So but I guess it's also at the same time is a way to tell time, to give a precise more precise timeline, right? Time barrier kind of thing. That's why you do it this way. There's a certain boundary of time, otherwise it's too wide and it's too chaotic if you don't have the boundary. So most of the time I just use a certain aspect of it as well. I don't even use the whole deck altogether, because also like some part of it, it's kind of weak in a way. The houses part is only the graphic like this. I mean, of course the explanation in the book is quite nice, but the graphic itself, it's yeah, it doesn't really revealing, or it doesn't give extra wow moment for me, you know. So for the houses part, most of the time I don't use this deck, but I will tell you on which deck that I'm doing it. So this Arcana of Astrology, yeah, do I recommend using it? Again, like the Lunar Oracle, if you only want to get one and you want to familiar with certain aspect of it, and yeah, sure, you know, you can of course use any deck at all. But if you have multiple decks and you try to get deeper, then 50-50, I guess. If you have an extra budget, you can get this deck, because I like the aspect of the planets and also the asteroids. That's how I feel about it. What else did I like about this deck? There's not necessarily spreads, I feel, but I think actually there are like information about, yeah, the astrology spread is really nice actually, the astrology spreads. So I would suggest you use it if you buy this deck, and if you have extra budget, if you want to go in depth. Okay, 40 minutes we're going. I think I'm going to do the second video, otherwise it's too long as well. So the next deck is the Monology Manifestation Oracle cards, which is I had before the Monology without the manifestation. And how I feel about this deck, I think this deck is nice if you take like one card for your client's reading as an affirmation card kind of thing, but as 5 card spreads or something like that, it doesn't really work for me. It's nice that it has the chakra system in now, and honestly the artwork is kind of reminds me of Daniel Noel card decks. That's kind of a little bit bugging me. Actually, this a lot of decks now is quite similar with Daniel Noel artwork, and I don't like it. I wish that people have more genuine artwork style, like Loscaribeos decks, you know. I feel a lot of rock pool and hay house decks now have this kind of feeling with this kind of cards that's really mimicking Daniel Noel artwork and card decks, and it's quite annoying. So for me, this deck is like if you taking like one card at a time as a confirmation of the energy of the reading, like ending the reading which with kind what kind of energy is this, or what you need to know, or what you need to do the first thing from this reading, then it's quite useful actually. But as a spread or within a spread, I don't really recommend, because it can be quite vague, like this last quarter moon in Pisces, talk less, feel more. I mean, it's very vague. But yeah, but in the last, for example, like if the last reading card, right? So okay, so the first thing I need to do, knowing this energy and this reading, what should I do? Go wild. It's kind of makes sense, you know. You can just do whatever you want to do at this moment, things like this. So do I recommend this as a deck to understand more about your moon aspect? Not really. But it's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful. When I use this deck, I don't really read the guidebook actually. So yeah, it is up to you, right, in the end of the day. But I don't really I'm not really recommend this deck actually. It is pretty, it is beautiful, a lot of beautiful imagery, but in the end of the day, it's just one sentence divination for me, and it's like the last oracle or the last piece of advice that probably still missing from the reading, but not much use other than that. So that's the reason I don't really recommend this. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, but I'm not really go into. I know that Yasmin Bolan is very active. She's doing reading with her cards almost every day kind of thing online. So probably if you follow her and you understand more about this deck, please let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, why not? I would like to learn more actually, and probably my judgment is most probably is biased, right, towards what I feel about the deck during using it this month. But if there is deeper way to understand and work with this deck, of course I want to know as well. Let me know, okay? So that's that. And the next one that I'm using this month is the Heavenly Bodies Astrology deck by Lily Ashwell. And oh my god, I have this deck for like almost a year now, and for some reason I not really gelling with her. Just like now, after I got so many different decks, all of a sudden she's like, oh, I actually also want to join the party, let's work together. And I was like, okay, sure, of course, we have been together for so long now, but you don't give me that much information all the time. So okay, you know, so we just work with together this month a lot, and I'm I'm feeling I'm loving it now, because she gave me a lot of information. And remember, with this deck, the Arcana of Astrology, I don't gel with this deck that much, also because the part of the house of the astrology. And in this deck, the heavenly bodies, the energy of the houses is really beautiful actually. And it's the coloring, it's beautiful. I know this is not a new deck, I don't care. For me it's new, and it's also, it's highlighting a lot of interesting keyword for me, that actually working very well at this moment. At right now, I'm really focusing on house 8, which where my Chiron is. So that's why, like, it's nice, you know, and it's unforgettable, like this type of drawing, this type of coloring with what my psyche need to know about reading that day according to the Chiron. It works really well for me, so I'm glad that this deck wants to work with me this month around, you know. And other than that, look at the sketches of this deck. Is very heartfelt, and it's very like personal feeling kind of feel. Even though it's a mass market deck, it feels in like indie deck actually. So yeah, would I recommend people to buy this deck? I absolutely recommend. And not just because it's beautiful and it's heartfelt, but also because the messages and the guidebook is quite nice as well actually. And it has something like omen, you know. It's kind of giving you an extra length to think about what is this card means to you, you know. So it's like giving the energetic keywords and experiences keywords. So yeah, I would still recommend people to buy this deck to work with astrology, even though it's not as new. Maybe you can get it through trade as well when you're trading your other decks. I don't know, but I highly recommend. And the last one before we finish this first hand video is the Everglow Divination System by Trisha Leschufeld, which is also have the houses cards that together with this deck, it's working tandem beautifully, because this deck is more about the illustration and the feeling of the houses, and this one it's more about the phrases. So it's also very, very beautiful, and it's making you very focused on which particular wording that you're working at that moment based on other cards imagery, right? So it's help confirming actually. And this deck is also nice, but also kind of restricting, because first of all, the only thing that the same with tarot deck is only the major arcana is the same kind of like placement and number, and others is quite different, like the number of the minor arcana is also the elements kind of thing. And also you have the cartomancy, numerology, and then you have the timeline and the emotions and stuff like this. So you have 5 different elements in the deck, 1 2 3 4 5, and you can do like a divination by yourself on it. And I really love this actually. Also the pentacle spreads in here is really, really nice. I recommend, if you cannot bring many decks to a place or something, or to a reading. This deck, if you, I think if you learn it quite in depth, especially the animal parts, the animal what do you call it, the animal energy, or you know, the spirit animal parts, you understand all the symbolism. I think it's really nice deck to be with and to learn with in a term of divination, you know. I quite recommend this deck because I also bought other deck called Door of Somlipith, something like that. That's also a kind of like unique divination system, but I really don't connect with that deck. So I think to make like a new kind of divination system that touches a little bit of tarot, but not really, it's not very easy actually, because you asking people to relearn their understanding about tarot, right? But at the same time you want them to curious enough to be open to your new system. And I think this deck is kind of doing it for me, because also the reading is really easy, and at the same time the spread that they're giving in the deck, in the guidebook itself, it's really fun to use actually. You see the everglow spread number, the right the end of it, it's really useful spread for me. You see it's sorry, my throat is not really well. It's giving the numerology and astrology spread as well, time frame spread. So there's many things you can try. Basically also, if you're on like no buy budget at the moment, or you're like in low budget buy as well for a deck, I think this deck can give something for you to try and play with. It's a fun deck to work with actually. And this deck is actually one of the reason I got the other lunar deck, because of the houses, you know. That's why I'm curious to see what is other decks trying to say about the houses as well. So that is part 1 of my July 2023 decks review. So let's say it the mass market deck review, and I will come back in the part 2 with the indie deck one. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, share, and comments if you like this video, because that's how you can help me to keep this channel going and flourishing. Okay, thank you, and see you in the second part.